More Grady and Big Joe on FM 107.5 and 1070 The Fan.
Mark Boyle, voice of the Pacers, joining us right now. MJB, how you doing, sir?
Good day to you. How are you?
And doing well, doing well. You're the perfect person to ask this. Adam Silver asked about a 1 through 16 playoff format, and something that has been discussed, although there's a lot of logistics and things to work out, which means a balanced schedule, more travel. In fact, he said 50% more travel if you did it, so that you have the competitive balance to find the true top 16 seeds in the playoffs. You have been on this travel carousel with the NBA since 89 with the Pacers?
Yeah, 88, 89.
88, 89. Would you jump out of the nearest window if you knew there would be 50% more travel for an upcoming NBA season?
No, but that in and of itself flies in the face of something they've been trying to do for the last 2 years, which is reduce the wear and tear on players. So That would be counterintuitive to that. I understand the concept, but I feel like it may be a slight overreaction to what tends to be cyclical. And that, in this case, is the West being the dominant conference and teams not making the playoffs that have better records than teams that do make the playoffs. Conceptually, I'm not opposed to it, but if the only reason you're doing it is because one conference is dominating the other at the moment, that seems cyclical to me and maybe a bit of an overreaction.
My feeling is that, and I look at it from what if it was the other way around. So as a small market Indiana team, let's say you're fighting and clawing to put together a good product, but the Eastern Conference happens to be stacked. And then you find yourself on the outside looking in because of how difficult the conference is. And so from that standpoint, I would be okay with seeing a 1 through 16 format because it would benefit a small market team like Indiana that has to put so much effort out there to put a good product out there on the basketball court. And so it may be cyclical, but if it shifts in the if it shifts to the Eastern Conference, then it benefits the Western Conference team at that moment. Then it shifts back. I think that having the top 16 period, the 50% more travel mark has got me kind of like I don't know. But I think seeing the top 16 teams in the NBA, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that.
I'm not opposed to it, but if you're going to do that, then you don't need conferences and you don't need divisions. What's the point?
Yeah, a couple of people tweeted in and said you have to incentivize division winners. You know, definitely have the division winners in. Those are your top seeds.
If the division winners get in, what if? And I don't know that this is even statistically possible. What if one of them what if one division is so mediocre that somebody wins it with 43 wins, and then somebody who doesn't win a division with 48 wins doesn't make the playoffs? Again, I don't know what the statistical probability of that would be, but then you've not solved the problem then.
No, this was a suggestion
if your goal is to get the top 16 in, I don't think anybody should get in automatically, and then that goes back to what I said before. What do you need conferences and divisions for?
Yeah, it was an idea from a handful of listeners, and there are a lot of ideas out there on ways that you can go about this to make it work. Again, I just can't get past the travel part because it is grueling enough as it is over the course of 82 games.
It's daunting, and I don't think unless you've gone through it, you really understand it because people perceive it as being glamorous. And while it's true, it's charter travel and 5-star hotels and all of that, it's still getting into cities at 2 and 3 in the morning and playing the same night. It's still, they've gotten rid of the 4 games in 5 nights, and they've cut back on the back-to-back, so that's good. And it's not grueling. I would never say that by any stretch of the imagination, and I can't really relate to it from the level of the player. It's much different to go sit somewhere for 3 hours and yap than it is to be playing against world-class athletes. All of that said, it is a difficult job in terms of the travel, and this would make it more so. So I think that's a valid point. You know what? I guess I'm torn on it. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other.
Yeah.
The other thing would be how to get the games right. You know, you'd have to add games so that everybody got to play each other an equal amount of time, and I don't think anybody wants that, right?
Well, mathematically speaking, that would be difficult because there are 29 other teams. So to play everybody the same number of times then you're either playing 58 games or 87 games. And if you play 87 games, then every single matchup is going to find you on the road 2 of the 3 times you play a given opponent, and sometimes at home 2 of the 3 times. So that's not equitable either.
Right.
I suspect what they'd end up doing is keeping the 82 games, and you'd play some teams 3 times and some teams 2 times, and that would rotate based on some kind of a predetermined formula or even at random. There are some problems with it, just like there are with any change, but there are also some reasons to do it. And as I look at it, guys, neither the problems nor the reasons are all that compelling in terms of one being a great advantage over the other.
Especially given how difficult and how, the logistics would be to doing something like that. We shall see, but that will take some time for sure. He was also asked whether or not Golden State is ruining the NBA with the DeMarcus Cousins signing. We haven't talked since free agency. What was your takeaway? The NBA was on fire after the during the opening days of free agency. What was your take in seeing how everybody, where everybody ended up?
It's been interesting in general for the last few years, but specifically this year was really intriguing because of all of the movement, and it was a little more restricted than normal because the money that was out there the last couple of years wasn't the same. So you were at the one thing you didn't really see was guy A getting a contract, and you look at it from the fans' perspective and say, "My God, what are they thinking?" Because that kind of money wasn't out there this time. But the Cousins thing is intriguing. But I'll tell you this: I think something that affects the West more than Cousins going to Golden State is Ariza and Bahamute leaving Houston.
Yeah,
it weakens Houston, and Golden State almost lost to Houston as they were constructed last season. You could make the case, I think, in pretty compelling fashion that had Paul not gone down, that series might have ended up differently. So those teams were very evenly matched. And those 2 guys, while not stars, were integral parts of what Houston was doing. Neither one has been replaced. And even if they bring in your man, it changes the whole dynamic of the team. I don't think necessarily for the better.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I think not that the front office did, but I think that there was widespread reaction to Trevor Ariza going 0 for 7 or 0 for 11 from 3-point range in Game 7, made him almost seem like he was expendable while ignoring what he was able to do for them defensively throughout that series, and they were able to switch so much, and having guys like Mba Amute on that roster and guys like Trevor Ariza helped you defensively against a team like Golden State. So I agree wholeheartedly. You lose those guys, and if you add Melo, you have more of a scoring punch, but defensively, yikes.
Do you have more of a scoring punch given the not so subtle decline of Anthony?
Over Mba Amute and Trevor Ariza, yes, but it's not. But I would definitely, I would take against Golden State, and this is Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson is saying this about the Lakers squad. I'm looking at the Lakers and saying, okay, you have a lot of guys who are ball dominant, who like to attack and can't really shoot around LeBron, who's historically had shooters around him, and they're saying, we're not going to try to fight fire with Golden State. We're going to try to get after them defensively and be in attack mode. And so that's the formula that they're going with. Houston was fighting fire with Golden State, but it was their defense that made it a 7-game series. And now they're saying, oh, no, we're just going to try to fight fire with fire on the offensive end. And that's going to, and to me, that will lead to an ass whooping, especially with Clint Capella still. Clint Capella is not worth 4 years, $100 million, but losing him too would also hurt.
I thought of that the other day when I was looking at that and doing some research. That situation is analogous, really, to the situation the Pacers faced with Roy Hibbert back in the day. Not worth the money, but you knew that if you didn't pay it, he was gone and you needed him. And so they paid the money. If he had left, he was such a big part of what they were doing. This was before his inexplicable decline, and he was so critical and so good for that limited period of time that when he got that, I believe the offer sheet was from Portland, was it not? That they ended up matching?
Yes. Yes.
And you looked at that and you said, well, you know what? As good as this guy is and as much of an impact as he has, he's not worth that money. You knew that when you signed him, but you didn't really have a choice. And I see Houston being locked into the same predicament.
Speaking of the Pacers, what do you like most about the free agent signings, and is there anything you think they still can or will do?
Well, from what I understand, Kevin said the other day that he was pretty much done with the roster unless something landed in his lap, and I'm paraphrasing. So let's just say, for the sake of our conversation, that they've decided this is what they're going to camp with. It's difficult to quantify, but I think on a general level, at least as I see it, they're better than they were. Look at who they lost. Lance is gone. Joseph Young is gone. Al Jefferson is gone. I'm forgetting somebody else who left. Glenn Robinson is gone.
Uh-huh.
And they're replaced by the people that have been signed in the last few days. Doug McDermott, Tyreek Evans, Kyle O'Quinn. That seems to me to be an upgrade, if only slightly. I think it certainly strengthens the bench, assuming that Evans plays off the bench and Bogdanovich keeps his starting position, which I don't know if that's been determined or not. I think they're better. And before free agency started, on a general level, I had it this way. Boston at the top, assuming everybody has all of their people healthy. Boston at the top, serious challenge from Philadelphia, and then a jumble after that. The Pacers, Toronto. I keep waiting for Milwaukee to do something, but they haven't. The teams of that ilk, I think, are just slightly behind the other two, but even putting that into context, I wouldn't say that Boston is unbeaten. Philadelphia. And, we'll see how this plays out, but I think there's reason to think two things. The Pacers are the best team in the Central Division, and at least legitimately in a conversation as an Eastern Conference championship contender. Not the favorite, but we're not talking about an overwhelming favorite, at least in my view, when we talk about Boston. I think they can legitimately go into the season expecting to win the division, expecting to get a home court, and seriously expecting to be able to compete for a spot in the finals. Too much?
No. It's funny. We were just talking about that. Zach Lowe has a piece on ESPN.com right now about winners and losers in NBA free agency. And while labeling Indiana a winner with their pickups, with McDermott and Tyreek Evans and Kyle O'Quinn, he, toward the second half of his piece on Indiana, said that they're not a contender in the East. And that's really surprised me.
Can you elaborate? Was it because he thought Boston was so much better, or Indiana's not good enough, or what was his rationale there? Well,
this is kind of on Zach. He really didn't elaborate. He mentioned about the dilemma with whether or not Sabonis and Miles Turner could play together, but he said they're not contenders in the East, but they have an interesting lineup now, is what he went on to say. But he didn't elaborate on the. Yeah.
How many contenders did he perceive there to be? Just two?
I don't know. We got to get Zach on the show, because I'm not sure his mindset there.
Because he liked everything they did. Everything was positive. They were definitely winners in free agency. He liked what they did, but he says they don't project as contenders in the East.
Well, I would disagree with that. I just don't think Boston is that much better than the others. I think they're better. And if you said to me, okay, right now, Boston vs. Indiana, best of 7, winner goes to the finals, my money's on Boston. I'm not saying otherwise. But I think Indiana is close enough to Boston that it's an 82-game season, twists and turns, things happen. Look at this last year. We were talking about the Pacers winning 35 games maybe, and they won 48. So certain things happen that are unforeseen, and I'm not suggesting that that'll happen with this team. All I am suggesting is this. Based on nobody having played a game and looking at the rosters, assuming everybody's healthy, yes, Boston is better, and yes, Philadelphia appears to me to be better. But not so much better that you couldn't legitimately go into the season and think, if things break our way, if we play well, if we improve over the course of the 82, then why can't we get to the finals? That, I think, is how I would define a contender.
I'm with him. You're mentioning Boston there. I think if you just get to the Eastern Conference Finals, you're a contender, and that means can you beat Philly? Can you beat Philly? Can you beat Toronto? Can you beat if you think they can go? If anybody thinks they can go toe to toe to Boston, then then of course they're a contender in the Eastern Conference. So yeah, I'm not sure what his thinking was on that. I want to throw this at you. This is not non-sports, and I'm sorry for this curveball at the end of the segment. But
No
for anybody
worries.
out there who thinks that they had a rough, having a rough day or had a rough moment in life, whatever it may be, consider this story. A woman in New Jersey needed her. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Mark. A woman in New Jersey needed her car worked on.
Okay.
39-year-old woman needed her car worked on. Mechanic, 56 years old. She didn't have the money, or for whatever reason, they decided to make a deal to have exchange sex for the bill.
Okay.
In the garage of her home.
All
Okay.
right. Okay.
In the car in the garage of their home. Husband comes home later.
In the running car in the garage.
Hold on. Husband comes home later and goes in the garage, smoke. They're both gone, deceased in the car.
Dead?
Mark. Dead in the car.
Oh my! So many questions. So many questions come to mind, don't they?
Yes.
So many questions.
Start picking it
So many
apart.
questions.
Oh,
Yeah,
New
as
Jersey.
we offer our post game analysis on that.
Is this just an oil change? Or were there serious problems with the car?
Apparently, there were at least two humans who didn't know that a running car in a closed garage is 100% fatal.
100%.
Yeah, one of them's a mechanic.
So that's the first thing that pops to mind. The second thing is, I suppose I could understand reasons why the woman wouldn't want to do this, but you are at her home. You couldn't go inside.
Right.
And if you have to do it in the car, either, okay, you don't want to be seen from the street. Put the garage door down, but why do you? Was it cold? Or was it too hot? The AC had to be on in the car. What's going on there?
No, this is recent.
Well,
yeah.
This is like yesterday or the day before.
Yesterday.
Now here's another question then, and I don't know the legalities of this, but that's obviously malpractice. Would I not have a case against the mechanic's employer? It's wrongful death. I don't know. If there's any lawyers out there, perhaps they can educate us. But
True. If you're the husband, though, I
will tell you this: if I was married to somebody that did that, and I came in on that and saw her dead, rather than grieving, I would be so pissed off. I would be trying to figure out how to make money off of her death. That's why
that would be the way to go. So you go to the mechanic.
That's why I would consult an attorney.
New Jersey, this was yesterday, 8:45 p.m. Everything broke on this story. That is as bizarre as it gets in that situation.
Think about the husband though, just rolling in from work. He's had a long, hard day. He wants nothing more than a cold beer and maybe a sandwich, possibly watch some Netflix, and he opens the garage door and, ooh, this is not going to be one of your better evenings, sir.
No. And then you have to think about, wait, they're going to suspect some foul play on my part.
Yeah.
Because I'm finding oh my gosh.
The interesting thing, too, is all the interviews with the family and just how, crazy, heartbroken they are. And it was just one of those things if I was confronted with this evidence, this is how it happened, I don't know how I'd feel. Yeah, you're sad that person's gone, but I'd have a hard time starting to grieve right away as soon as they're putting a microphone in my face and a camera.
Yeah.
Well, here's another thing. Okay, so the lady decides she can't pay, and she decides the best way to do it is to barter services for services. Wouldn't you, before you did that, call hubby at work and say, hey, listen, Johnny, here's the deal. I can't pay this car bill. You want me to hook for it? Or do we have any, do you have an extra credit card? Or, should I check about a payment? Arrangement?
I can't. So many questions. Without getting too graphic, but that had to be a really good moment to cough and go, let's just keep going. I'm going to cough. I'm coughing my lungs up here, but you know what? Screw it. Let's just.
Don't say so.
There's symptoms involved. Once you started to have some of those symptoms,
this is hot.
Open the garage. Yeah, this is perplexing on so many levels.
MJB, we're up against it. Thanks so much, brother. We'll talk to you soon, Mark. Thanks.
We should have. Why did we even waste 10, 15 minutes talking about basketball? We should have gotten right into this.
We should have led with that. You're right.
Yes.
Talk to you soon, Mark. Thanks so much. Good stuff. Quick time out. Plenty more to come here on 107.5 and 1070 The Fan.